Washington Commanders linebacker Jon Bostic credits his father and a Hall of Fame legend for handing him the blueprint to sustain success in the National Football League. It has led him to a decade of NFL football, and now he is putting that knowledge to work, looking to help the athletes of the future. He's here to talk about it now on this episode of Locked On Commanders.
Your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome, Commanders fans, to the Locked On Commanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. This is your daily podcast covering the Washington Commanders, free and available on all platforms, including YouTube and the WUSA 9+ app on your Roku or your Amazon Fire Stick. And we thank you for making this your first listen or your first view of the day. I'm David Harrison, credentialed member of the media covering your Commanders for Commander Country, part of Sports Illustrated's FanNation. You can find me there or here or on Twitter at DHarrison82. Like I said, in the cold open, Washington Commanders linebacker Jon Bostic is here today to help kind of release the early information on a project that is a decade or so in the making for him personally. I'm going to let him speak to you about it. But first, we are going to talk about Commanders football, beginning with the newest acquisition into the franchise, offensive coordinator and assistant head coach Eric Bieniemy. Joining us here on the Locked On Commanders podcast now, Jon Bostic, 10-year NFL linebacker, second-round pick from the 2013 NFL draft by the Chicago Bears. The last remaining linebacker from that class on an active roster at the beginning of the 2022 NFL season. Spent the last 4 years here in Washington with us. And Jon, we really appreciate you taking some time out to talk to us. There's obviously a lot going on around the team right now, both within the football operations and, of course, holistically looking at the overall structure of the organization. But I think we need to start with what I think is the biggest storyline, or maybe the most impactful storyline to what's going to happen on the field next season. And even though you're a defensive player, how do you think that the change from offensive coordinator Scott Turner to offensive coordinator and assistant head coach Eric Bieniemy really could be?
It's going to be interesting. Obviously, I played against Andy Reid a bunch of my career. Mm-hmm. I know, what he's, put out, staff wise, and his coaching tree. His coaching tree has had a huge effect on football. It's like when you look at, his background and, the West Coast, portion of it and, different coaches that have evolved, from under him. There's been a lot of success around the league. And so, obviously it's definitely going to be interesting to see how, our offense takes that next step and they progress, coming up this year.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned playing against the Andy Reid offense and Eric Bieniemy, his offense, Kansas City Chiefs. You guys played in the preseason prior to 2022's regular season. Is there anything that, looking back on that game, I know it was a while ago now, there's been a lot of football since then, and even preseason, typically, I think what the stereotype is what we see, like 10% of the offense typically in a lot of these games. There's not a whole lot of game planning, but is there anything that kind of stood out that you can look back on and say, you know what, like we have the dudes that can do what they tried to do in that game?
See, this is the thing. A lot of people, they see an offense and it's like, well, we're just going to bring the whole offense over. They've got pieces we don't have. We got pieces that they don't have. And so it's about playing to your guy's strengths. And I think if, he can come in and put his spin on it and, we play to, our guy's strength, we can have success, because we do have some weapons. We have some guys that, can go, get guys that can make plays in space. We got guys that can, take people, over the top. We got guys that, are mismatch nightmares. So to be able to make sure we're putting those guys in the right place and allowing them to go make their plays. We've got a guy that can get the ball to them is all going to be important. And, obviously keeping the quarterback upright and running the football. It's got to start up front. I think that's where the main part about it is. Like you look at, where we've had success, throughout the last couple of years. You look at the last year, we went to the playoffs. What we did well that year, we ran the ball and played good defense. So
absolutely.
Vision as the year gets later on, like the weather's not always great. You really only got one indoor game down in Dallas, and outside of that, you're playing in the conditions. So it's like when you're playing in those conditions, you have to be able to run the football. You have to be able to, protect the football and control the clock and play good defense because it's going to be certain games where you have to do that. You're not just going to be able to just line up and, throw the ball all over the place. It's just where we're at in the Northeast. Like, get the luxury, weather that, some other states might get.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know all about that luxury weather, playing for the Florida Gators. You're in Florida. I think you're in Florida right now, aren't you? Obviously you've carved out a very impressive NFL career. So what you say, I mean, and we all do that. I mean, we're guilty of it here too on Locked On Commanders. Like, who's the Travis Kelce? Who's the Isaiah Pacheco? Like, who's this guy? You know what I mean? So we're all guilty. But I think the biggest thing you point out, and you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, they lose Tyreek Hill, and in a lot of ways have a better offense without Tyreek Hill, which is amazing in and of itself. So certainly, obviously, some very, very valid points there. You've had an impressive career. The staying power alone to play in the NFL this long, when so many people unfortunately can't make it that long, either from talent, sometimes work ethic, but also injuries and health. When you think back to 2013, coming out of Florida, share with the viewers and listeners, because right now there's a lot of guys kind of going through that experience. What is it like for an NFL prospect as they're going through this process of being honestly maybe even over-evaluated, right, and taking that leap from college to the league?
It's definitely an interesting process. Because regardless of where you get drafted, you still got to go in and make a team. And you got to understand, like, during that time, the league's a little bit different. It wasn't as young as it is now. So now, like, everybody's like very, very, very young, like in the league. It's just the way the game has kind of, moved and gone. But it's like when you go back and you look at that year, the process was much the same, like when my dad came out, in the 80s, and he played for the Detroit Lions, back in the day. And so to be able to, kind of get a lot of those things that he told me, were going to happen. Like, hey, at the combine, this is usually how this works. And this is how that works. I mean, going back even, I call him Coach Little, like, he was my coach as well. But, Larry Little was one of my mentors. And, so being able to kind of, receive, guidance, from guys that have been there and done it. And, this is somewhere, I want to be able to, make a name in, and, be able to play here, for a long time, and, take care of my family and everything. There were a lot of things that I was able to take to it, but it's definitely, it's a lot of people think it's the hardest thing is making it to the NFL, but it's really actually, staying in the NFL. That's what it's really about. Because every day they're trying to replace you. Every day they're looking for somebody younger, cheaper, and faster, whatever that is. So to be able to, take a lot of those things that I was, gifted from, whether it's, different points that helped a lot of these, veterans, and throughout their career, those things are really what helped me. Cause like when I walked into my locker room, when I walked into my, my team meeting room, I had Lance Briggs, I had James Anderson, I had DJ Williams, I had Blake Costanzo. Like, I had veterans that had been in the league for a while that was able to show me the right way. Like, they were like, look, listen, like, young buck, like, if this is something you want to do and you want to be here a long time, this is how you're going to go about it. On Mondays when we get done, this is what we do. On Tuesdays, we do this. Wednesday when we start our work week, we're progressing like this throughout the week. Sunday is the test, and it's like, I came from a program, down at the University of Florida where they ran it like an NFL program. You had Quinn that was down there as my defensive coordinator. You had Muschamp that was down there, helping call the plays on defense, which was the head coach at the time. You had, T-Rob, and you had DJ Durkin, and these guys that have coached at that level before and have played at that level before. So it's like, when you've got guys that have, even coach Brian Young, for the 49ers, that was our defensive line coach, along with Dan. Like, so we understood what it was going to take for us to not only make it, to the next level, but to stay at this next level and play at a high level. We weren't just running it like it was a, college program and, we're just going to graduate and be done with it. They came in and they asked that question, was like, like, do you guys really want to make it to the next level? And, when they saw the raise of hands, it was like, okay, this is simple. We understand how to put this plan together and how, to execute this plan, going forward. And that's why, like, when I got to the NFL, like, I was able to have a lot of success. I was able to stay in it as long as, I have, and, to still be in it, it is a testament to all of that.
Much more with Jon coming up here on today's episode of Locked On Commanders. And today's episode of Locked On Commanders is brought to you by Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and the calories, then you've got to try a Built Bar. With Built, healthy is actually tasty, and they're so delicious you're not even going to think that they're good for you. They're all covered in 100% real chocolate, and they come in unbelievable flavors like churro and peanut butter brownie, all while maintaining amazing macros. Only 130 calories, just 4 grams of sugar, while popping a whopping 17 grams of protein. For years, we've been telling you to get your Built Bars in the mail through Built.com, but now you can go to your local Walmart or Sam's Club and get yourself a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs in the pharmacy section of your local Walmart, or you can get yourself a 13-bar box of brownie batter and churro in your local Sam's Club. Of course, you can still go online if you want to and find amazing flavors at Built.com, like the gluten-free brownie batter puff or the all-new mint brownie puff that I just learned about before we went live here on this recording. Whatever your preference is, grab yourself a Built Bar. Built different. Absolutely, and you're taking that's why we're here today. One of the big things that you've been working on, and you're taking that blueprint, you're taking all that information and guidance that you've gotten, and you're trying to pass that on to the next generation. Speaking of athletic preparation, holistically, mentally, and physically, right? You've been working on something big. We're finally now to the point where you're ready, and we can release this to the public and talk about it openly. So tell us about Wellington Sports Academy, and within that, the Bostic Sports Performance Gym.
So it is something I've been working on for quite some time. I've been, very, very quiet about it. On paper, I've probably, been working on just this whole piece of it that, we're releasing, about 2.5 years, something like that. We were working on this through COVID and, all this stuff. So, even it was during season, we finished, meetings on Monday, on Zoom or whatever it is. And, then I jump on another Zoom call, with, my lawyers, and, we're going through stuff and, other people that I needed to, get involved to be able to make something like this happen. But, it's a special, project that, I've been putting together for quite some time. Like I said, it's been 2.5 years on paper, but like the whole plan, like itself is, really been about 9.5, getting ready to go on 10 years that I've been putting it together. Really it was just about finding the right location, for something like this. And, we were able to find a perfect location down in South Florida. We're in the heart of everything. This will be the biggest training facility in the state of Florida and one of the biggest in the country. So we're excited to, be able to announce that, and just, all the different pieces of it, so yeah, it's going to be a sports academy. It's going to be something, that, we've blended a couple different models together. So this model will be the first of its kind in the country, and how we built it. And I think that's what's going to make it, truly special, and what's really going to take it over the top are, the people that we're going to have in the building that are going to be working, with these kids, and, parents and, professional athletes that are going to be coming through there, because it's a state of the art facility. It's a $38 million facility. It's beautiful. It's gonna, we're going to host a lot of tournaments and stuff that are down there. We've got, 7 full indoor basketball courts. We got 13 full indoor volleyball courts. There's a membership-based gym in there that's about 15,000 square feet. You got a whole performance-based gym in there that are, is going to power all the different academies and, travel clubs that are running out of that facility. We got an orthopedic and, / physical therapy office that's going to be in there. There's a chiropractic office, a cheerleading gym, full cafe. And then it's like you look at outside, there's a full baseball and full softball field and a full multi-purpose field. All those fields are turf. So it's going to be able to do a lot for these kids down, in the South Florida area, because, there's going to be a place for them to go, and they're going to be able to have all the resources that they can only dream of. They're going to be able to have the coaching that they can dream of, but also the guidance that's going to come along with this. Like the people that these kids are going to see inside the building, these are people that have been there and still doing it, or they've been there and done it. So we understand what it's going to take, for these kids to be able to get to where they dream of. Like, we have the blueprint, we're here, or we've been there. Yeah. So now it's like being able to take that blueprint and passing it down to the next generation, and allowing more of these kids to get to college. Because especially I'll say in this area, there should be so many more that are making it out and getting to the next level, but sometimes they may slip through a crack just because, hey, maybe wasn't in the right scheme schematically, like for me, or certain schools that may have been interested in. Maybe I wasn't up to that caliber, where I needed to be at that point in my career, because I just didn't get the foundation that I needed, in elementary and middle school. So when I got to high school, I was a little bit behind. I was trying to play catch up, and then sometimes it ends up being too late. So to be able to grab these kids from the time they're 4 or 5 years old and have them, in the same program with the same coaches, running the same scheme, all the way, throughout, is only going to help these kids grow and develop. And it's going to help put more of these kids, into college, because that's what the whole goal is. And it's like how I kind of put this whole thing together and really kind of thought about it is like, a lot of, just professional athletes in general, they have their, camps in their local hometowns and they give back to the kids, which is all great. I love those type because, I love doing that with kids. But the reason I've never done one, because I wanted to put something like this that was together, was because I have a camp, I'm affecting that kid's life, for one day out of 365 days in a year.
Mhm.
Like, what about the other 364 days? Like, am I saying that those kids don't matter on those days, or what? And so that's where this whole process came in. It's like, how can I be a part of these kids' lives for 365 days out the year? How can I affect these kids' lives and affect these kids for generations, going forward? Because the same lessons that they're being taught in here, the same guidance that they're receiving inside this building is going to be the same things that they're going to be teaching to, their teammates in college. The same thing they're going to be teaching, to their kids when they eventually have kids. So this is something that is going to go on, for generations, and being able to touch kids for generations that, we may never even meet. So I think that's what really makes this whole thing really special, is because we're going to be able to touch so many kids from so many different walks of life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an impressive undertaking. I mean, you mentioned $38 million facility, and the intent, right, is in my previous career, we call it cradle to the grave, and the grave is not your dying, the grave is like you're graduating to the next level. But I mean, you talk about just train, like if you need physical training, you working out, it's their skill development is there, nutrition and resources are there, the holistic, working on the brain, working on the mind and the mentality. And you kind of talked about it. You're not just developing players, you're developing leaders. 17.2 acres of land in Wellington, Florida. I mean, it certainly sounds impressive. You've shared some of the mock-ups with me. It looks absolutely impressive, and I think it's a great undertaking. You talk about some of the inspiration behind it, and I think that those inspirations are well placed. But you also mentioned some of the people that are involved in this with you. Can you share some of those other people? Because I think when you first shared this with me, Jon, like obviously I'm thinking, okay, this is a football training facility. And you're like, no, there's gonna be more sports. We'll go, okay, baseball, basketball, then you go into softball, and cheerleading is really kind of like, okay, so you like genuinely are trying to reach out to the athlete, not the football player, not the basketball player. You're looking to reach out to the athlete. If you're an athlete, this is who this is for. So who are some of those other athletes that are involved in this project with you?
So, it's definitely as we go, there's going to be, there's going to be a lot of names that we're going to announce, like as we're going and throughout it. But you said it's going to be a huge facility. It's not something I'm going to be able to, just do by myself. And I think there's a lot of guys that, and girls as well, that want to still be around their respective sport. We've got some girls that are still, playing professionally in their respective sport, and they're going to be coming, to the table to make this special. They're going to be actually not, just coming and running clinics, but, they're going to be, running our different academies, from, their different sports. They're going to be coaching our national teams that are going to be going all over the country and playing, because they still want to be around it. And it's fun. It allows them to be able to give back to the next generation as well. But it's like, it's more than just as much as a lot of people probably think is it's just going to be just a football training center because I play football, but that's far from the truth as it can be. We understand at this facility, not every kid coming in there is going to be professional athlete or maybe a Division I athlete. So when we start talking about the guidance aspect of helping more of these kids get to college and, and helping them understand there's different levels that we can play. Hey, you might not be a Division I athlete, but you can play Division II ball. You can play Division III, or hey, you might be a Division II football player, but hey, you're a ninth grader, maybe 10th grader, whatever it is. But if we move you over to the baseball diamond, you might be a Power 5 guy. Might be totally different.
Yep.
And so kind of the approach that we're taking, with a lot of these kids, because we want more of these kids to start looking at different options, because from a lot of the like, you look at basketball players, especially down here in the South Florida area, we got some great basketball players. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But some of the basketball players that we have in the area are only 6'2", 6'3".
Mm-hmm.
There's not really too many 6'2", 6'3", guys, coming out of, this area, or just in general, because basketball players tend to be longer. They tend to be taller.
Right.
And, if you're playing the 4 or the 5, at your school, like at 6'2", 6'3", realistically, you need to be a guard. And so getting with these kids and helping these kids understand, like, this is how this process really works is truly, important. I mean, as we go, like I said, we're going to announce more of the girls' names that are going to be coming to the table. We're going to announce, some of the guys that are going to be coming in, and, with our golf academy that's going to be coming there. I think that's going to be a special person as well. We've had a conversation, probably with last year and a half. We've talked, multiple times. They definitely want to do something like this, because the kids need it. The kids need all of this stuff, the guys that, I can say, that I've, obviously been going through this process, with right now, like Devin Travis. Devin Travis is a guy that's going to be, heading our baseball academy. And, Devin and I, played baseball and basketball in middle school and high school together. So we're, that's one of my best friends. So we went to the same high school, graduated the same year. He unfortunately went to Florida State. Made a tough decision to go up there.
Hey, kudos to you that he's still your best friend, though, right? I mean, I think that's stand up. That's stand up of you, I think.
Yeah, and then Patrick O'Donnell is going to be huge in this as well. He's the punter for the Green Bay Packers. Pat and I, went to high school, played together in high school. Funny story. Before Pat took over the punting job, Pat used to play linebacker.
All right.
I was still playing in the secondary, and I was the punter.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Didn't last long, but I don't know why they decided to put me back there. It was a kick after practice one time, and a coach decided on me, and I'm like, I didn't even try out for this, but we ended up moving Pat back there, and the rest was history. And Pat finished up year 9. So I got drafted 2013 to Chicago. And it was crazy because I told Pat, like, before, Pat, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, this and that. And I was like, look, like, being in Chicago, like, we need big, strong leg kickers. I was like, don't be surprised, like, if we draft you. Kickers and punters really don't get drafted. Okay, Pat. And I was like, what do I know? Next thing you know, 2014, Pat ends up getting drafted to Chicago. So, we played together there, played together in high school. Would have loved to play together in college as well. But, these are, guys that are live in the community, that are going to be huge, with this project as well. One of my best friends as well that I played college ball with. He played in the NFL, with Jacksonville, played in Washington for a little bit. Josh Evans, he's coming. He's going to be doing some things, from behind the scenes strategically to keep this whole thing running. Like I said, just as we keep going, we're going to keep, releasing those names, for especially I think everybody's going to really be excited when especially the women's side of the sports, they're going to be really excited to see some of these women that are coming to the table to really make this project, very special, because they want to get back to, to the next generation just as much as we do.
So what's the next step for Washington Commanders linebacker Jon Bostic and the Wellington Academy? We let him tell you himself, coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders. Absolutely. So, I mean, really, again, this is a project long in the development on paper and the mental side of it and building it and everything, but still almost kind of like a new beginning, still very, very much in the infancy of it as well. When are you looking to break ground on the Wellington Sports Academy, and when do you hope to have kind of the first batch of athletes in there to get some good holistic training in?
So we'll have we've already started architectural plans. We're going to break ground late July, maybe a little bit earlier. It'll be right before we go to training camp. Because I know a lot of the guys that are still playing. It's kind of that sweet spot in between, getting some of the softball girls and stuff that'll be involved, getting them down because this will be right before they take off. And then, we may have to move it to a little bit early in July, but it'll be sometime in July that we break ground. But this will be up August 1st, 2024. We're pushing to get it open a little bit earlier. But we'll be starting there. Like we're starting with 12 different sports right off the back. Which is going to be huge, and we plan to grow that number a little bit. But we'll have different age groups, for every club that we're going to be having under there, and then our baseball academy, it'll be a true academy, where these kids are coming in, they'll be enrolled in Florida Virtual School. They'll take the homeschool route. We'll eventually grow to where we'll actually have the school actually in-house, kids, which is going to be huge, because the people that we're going to have in, like, this is going to allow them to put their best foot forward. When you're talking about, coming in, for, 5-6 hours a day and being treated like collegiate professional athlete, from, ninth grade, it's going to really, they're going to see how many more hours they're going to be able to put in towards their respective sport. That's going to allow them to be a step ahead of everybody else in their class. And that's, like I said, the most important part about this is getting more of these kids to college. We have to.
Absolutely. So now, developing athletes, it's like the bottom floor of this thing, right? That's like the bottom floor of this project. Beyond that, developing leaders, and more importantly, developing successful human beings. You've been successful. You're a father, an NFL Hall of Famer, a coach also handed you that blueprint. Now you're passing that on, and I applaud you for it. Washington Commanders linebacker Jon Bostic, founder of Wellington Sports Academy, soon to be the largest athletic training facility in Florida, one of the largest in the country, and perhaps the most well-rounded, most holistic training facility for any young athlete in the country. Jon, congratulations on getting to this point of this project as well. I'm super excited for you. And of course, we look forward to helping you along the process as we can get the word out and spread that word, but also supporting you in your ventures as well. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
A big shout out once again to Washington Commanders linebacker Jon Bostic, not just for joining the show, but for taking this venture on and trying to build something that's going to impact generations and generations of future athletes as they come through the Wellington Sports Academy. Can't wait to see that project get off the ground from in a physical aspect, already well off the ground, but from a physical brick and mortar aspect. Can't wait to see the developments of that. And we can't wait to see what's going to happen on Monday, starting Monday. Legal tampering begins in the National Football League. We will be here. We'll have it covered. We will have a mock draft Monday episode dropping Monday morning for you. And then we'll be with you all through the madness that is about to ensue. We hope that you come back and join us here for that, just like you did today. Thanks again for making the Locked On Commanders podcast first listen or your first watch of the day. If you want to get more prepared for the upcoming NFL draft, make your second listen Locked On NFL Draft. Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez provide in-depth coverage of the biggest NFL draft prospects with deep dives into the sleepers and hidden gems that can change your favorite NFL franchise. Find Locked On NFL Draft wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you want to get in on the conversation, drop a comment, drop a topic idea, drop a question, whatever you want. Hit them, drop them in the comments here on YouTube, or hit me up in the DMs on Twitter at LO Commanders or at DHarrison82. Signing off for today, I'm David Harrison, staff writer for Commander Country of Sports Illustrated's FanNation. Find me there, here, or again on Twitter at DHarrison82. Until we speak again, if you're out and about, please be safe, be kind to one another, and we'll see you next time right here for the next episode of Locked On Commanders.